All right, so welcome everyone to the fourth webinar in our four-part webinar series on project-based learning. Today we are going to be talking about partnerships and we really encourage participation on your part. So if you're comfortable, you can unmute and share or add to the chat. We are going to utilize a whiteboard in our time together today. So I'm going to turn it over to Dolly and Joanna and Linda to kick us off.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer. So we're going to talk about partnerships today, particularly related to the last few weeks when we've talked about project-based learning. But I guess one thing I want you to think about, and I think that we'll be leading you to, is that some of the partnerships that you make through particular reasons for project-based learning might lead to more long-term and deeper partnerships that will really improve your program. So this is really an important thing to think about, is not trying to do this all by yourself. So we'll introduce ourselves in the next slide. And so I am Dolly Ledeen, the WAN STEM consultant. And I encourage you to let me know what you're doing with STEM and reach out for any sort of help. Linda?
Linda Isley here. I am the WAN professional development lead and also a consultant and have my own private consulting firm.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Joanna Skazacek, and I work at UW-Madison Division of Extension, and I'm in the Positive Youth Development Institute, which means that I work a lot with our 4-H Positive Youth Development programming and also our Community Youth Development programming.
Thanks. Okay, so basically we're going to talk today about what you need to do PBL and who can help you, give you some examples, types of potential partners so you can really brainstorm who that might be in your region, really clarify what their role might be, what your role is, and then some tips for making it work effectively. So I assume some of you, I recognize the names, were in the STEM project-based learning session that we did. And in that STEM session, we developed a driving question. And so this is one of the first steps in project-based learning, is to find out what your kids are interested in, what's going on in your community, or just something that they want to explore further. And that will be your driving question that will really help you to structure the project. And so we'll return to that driving question and think about what you need to answer it and who could help you do that and who could give kids information, experiences, or skills to find that answer. And so I first will see if any of you have a driving question that you're working on or that you know that you want to work on, and we'll use that as an example. So if you want to have us run through your example, please unmute yourself and let us know your driving question. Anybody? Okay. If not, we will go to Linda's example. But as Linda's talking about her example, think about what you might be wanting to do in your club.
One of my absolute favorite times when I'm working with a group of kids is snack time. The conversations that happen at snack table just provide you a wealth of information to decide maybe what direction you might want to take. So here's an example that I have, is that you've noticed that a lot of your kids do like to run. And so you might start a conversation about, hey, I know that a lot of you like to run. I also like to run. What do you like about running? So kind of just get a basic conversation going. And with a couple prompts, a lot of the kids will come up, well, can we start a running club? Or if it has to, it might come from you, but primarily I'd like it to come from the kids. So their question is, well, can we start a running club? My answer is, well, why not? What do you want it to be? And then we can begin to look at, well, I might not have a lot of information, but I need to find my partners. So I might start out with the physical education teacher right there at the school and see what kind of help that they could give me. I might then next, I might go to the high school cross country coach and even the cross country team. So as I'm thinking about, well, who can help us start a running club and also answer a lot of our questions about what we know or what we want to learn about running, then I begin to think of some other people, partners that can help me. So I'd like to just take a minute or two here. So like if you were going to start a running club in your program, who might you partner with? Who might you contact? Where might this lead you? And just in the chat box or unmute, give me some of your thoughts as to, well, who would I contact in my community to get this started that could help me have a running club within my after school program? And you can just unmute and shout them out, or you can write them in the chat box.
My fingers aren't quite as fast as they used to be, so I'll unmute today.
So
this might sound kind of like a silly suggestion, but what came to my mind when you said that was we actually in our area have a lot of senior resident halls. And our after school programs have worked with them to do not necessarily running clubs, but like different exercise and walking clubs, because there are a lot of people there that have similar interests. They want to get the activity going. They want to get moving. And so they had a lot of stuff that was like already created that was really easy for us to join in on. And then that just created a lot of really cool intergenerational opportunities.
Great example. Thank you. Some other people, who might you contact in your community? The local running clubs, do you have any of those? Do you have a high school cross country team? From Sam, Parks and Recreation. Good place to go. Good connections. And to be honest with you, that's one of those partnerships when in the beginning, Dolly was saying, you know, you build over time and they become a lot more involved in your program, not just in this particular activity, but a lot of them as you go forward. Allison, hospitals and clinic. Thank you. Tell me more. Can you unmute, Allison?
We'll see if it works. I don't know. Sometimes I get kicked out when I'm unmuted.
Oh, I can hear you now.
Our clinics and hospitals work, you know, they do different programs at times in the summer, like stretching to prevent injuries and, you know, working to get the community and kids healthier and stuff. So they would definitely, you know, partner with us, I'm sure.
You know, I had a real thought about all the health professionals as well, because I was looking at a physical therapist, a personal trainer, someone even with your pulmonary, your cardiology, someone that could come in and talk to the kids about heart rate, resting heart rate, and active heart rate, and just kind of even talk to them about what that looks like and why, what's the difference. Lung capacity, someone coming in pulmonary. There's great science activity in which it's actually going into, I think if I remember right, a milk carton and lung capacity. Can we improve lung capacity? So, you know, a lot of those health professionals can come in and answer the questions that kids might have about different things. Well, why does my heart rate increase when I'm running? Why do I get out of breath? Those kind of, so you can bring in a lot of those, not only the science and the knowledge, but the professionals that are working in the field, and you never know when they're going to be a continuing partner. Some other thoughts?
Sam and Beth Marie both talked about parks and recreation departments and people who already do this kind of programming for schools and in the community.
Right. Any other thoughts?
Joanna says they can also discuss careers like sports medicine, PT, etc. So it can get into a whole discussion.
Another one that came to my mind is if I'm working with a program where the kids really might be fairly low income and can't afford decent running shoes, I might try to see if I can partner with one of the sports club or one of the shops, the retails, to see about getting running shoes. That might be an opportunity that, as far as my kids, I can even have them begin to write grants. So they can use some of their writing skills to be able to say, can we find someone that could fund us to, or sponsor us to have, so that we could get running shoes for the kids so that they're better equipment. And why would a running shoe be important? So I might go into some other ways to have them look at grant possibilities. Another one, if they are going to do some fundraising in that, to kind of look at, well, can a credit union help us if we're going to do fundraising? So I can really begin to broaden out of who I might be able to engage with to make this club really sing. And as far as when we talk about the final step in a lot of the project-based learning, we think of a presentation or that at the end. There's lots of ways that they could then do presentations of what they've learned. But the other thing is that they might go into, say, want to enroll or enlist in a 5K run or something of that sort. So that for a particular charity, the kids can discuss, well, what is a 5K? How long is a 5K? And there's lots of math and science involved in how do we determine what a 5K is, and how does a kilometer go against a mile. So then we might be able to say, okay, there's several charity runs. Which one would our kids choose to then run in? So another way that they could then make themselves visible and show themselves as runners. So those are some of my ideas. How about any other final ideas that people have?
Sam gave a good suggestion of checking in with nonprofit, for-profit entities like gyms and fitness centers and stores.
Great, great. Can you see how this is a real simple one, but really beginning to look at how many different partners, depending on what the interest of your kids are, and so how many different directions you can take this. I almost look at it as like a web, and then really branching out on a webbing technique to really begin to focus on what it is the kids want to do, where we can go with that information. So this seems to me like just a real concrete, simple example of how you can use project-based learning and then build in the partnerships of your community.
Great.
So
excellent example. Okay, so before we get into specific potential partners, it's important to think about what their roles might be. And so through Linda's example, you heard about a lot of roles that they might have, but the basic first step is to help youth build their knowledge and develop skills. So a lot of the examples that Linda talked about were bringing in experts and people with some background in running to help them develop that knowledge that they need in order to know how to do this. And then she also talked about finding materials and funding. So going to a sporting goods store to get funding for them to really get quality running shoes. And then maybe help someone else, another partner or some of the same partners could help them develop and critique their actual project. Maybe there are partners, maybe the club, the running club at the high school or the cross country team at the high school could look at their plan and critique it and give them some suggestions. And then ultimately the audience for whatever their final presentation might be or final product, someone to watch them run or someone to learn about what they did, to be that authentic audience. So they really feel that what they've done makes a difference. And next. So what's your role in all of this? So that's what the partner's role is, but what's your role and how do you work with a partner? So first of all, you want, as Linda has talked about, you want the kids to really drive the bus and take charge of this, but that may not happen right away. They really need you to help them define their goal and make a realistic plan. So it's more a guiding sort of role, help them identify what skills and resources they might need. They might think, oh, well, let's just do this. Well, you might help ask some specific questions about how they can do it and identify what they need in order to do it. And then just help facilitate that process, keeping things moving, and then being a resource for those kids to help them connect with partners. And Linda and Joanna, jump in wherever.
Yeah, I was going to say, one of the things when you talk about a realistic plan, so many times when the kids first start, their plans are kind of pie in the sky. They're just so broad and so big that you kind of, with continuing questions, bring them down to where it's something that's actually doable and achievable for them. And that I think is a real important part of your role, is to kind of keep it real and keep it realistic so that they don't get frustrated and lose interest. It goes back to basic theory of education. Vygotsky's, is just keeping the learning where it's just enough to keep kids engaged and learning without being too frustrating or too simple. So that's your role, is really keeping it realistic and a doable plan for them.
And so it's important that you see these things as your role and not leave all of these things to the partner, because the partner is going to give you specific kinds of resources and skills and knowledge. They're not going to manage your group and help the group through their project. They might take some of those roles, but you're still the facilitator. And so I think it's important to remember that. And then there's a little more on what's your role in the next step. And so when you're with a partner, let's say a partner has come into your program to give a talk or to take kids on a field trip or something like that to help them build that knowledge. Your role is to be an engaged youth, an active model participant. You're not going off for a coffee break or doing something else. You're right there with the kids, listening and asking questions and working with them as part of their team. So it's important that you stay engaged and really cheer them on through all of the work.
I think that's the fun of project-based learning, is that you are a learner with the kids and you are participating too. And your energy and your enthusiasm will carry a long way to keep the kids also active learners, because you're really modeling what it is to be a good learner.
Great. And so just in terms of helping you brainstorm about potential partners, and when we're done with talking about all the potential partners, we're going to brainstorm some of your specific partners that you might find in your community, in your region. So as we're looking at these lists, maybe have a piece of paper or jot down or think about who there is in your community that you might reach out to in any of these categories. And if some of these make you think of something completely different, think of that too. But we're going to brainstorm your specific partners a little bit later on. And so first, the K through 12 schools. There are some teachers, perhaps elementary, even and middle and high school teachers, that are really interested in STEM or whatever topic you're addressing. So as Linda said, reaching out to the high school Phi-Ed teachers or running clubs, but other things right within the school district where you're working. Linda thought of school forests, which are often very underused resources, and other district resources. And then your CISAs. Sometimes those CISAs, I think the state has 12 of them. If you don't know, we can help you find out who they are. Sometimes they have a person that has a very general role to facilitate this kind of learning and might be able to help you. Higher education resources, if you have colleges, universities, a lot of times they have a number of departments, not only their education departments, but I'm always thinking STEM, but you might, if it's a more social science problem or community problem, you might find another department on campus that would really like to work with you to solve that problem. And don't forget technical colleges. Those are in many, many communities that really would have a lot of resources to help you gain materials, gain skills, gain access to helping kids really address some real problems. And then Joanna is going to talk a little more later about extension in more detail, but that's something that's also in every county. And there are a lot of people with various kinds of expertise who can help you. So we'll keep going. So in government, city, town, village, county, state, there are so many departments that really have people with expertise that want to reach out and do more education, but don't always have the ability or the time to find educators to connect with. And I put an exclamation point after sewage treatment plant, because those are in every community and often have a lot of resources to help kids solve problems. They might wonder, where does it go when I flush the toilet? And there is someone there who can help them answer that question. And that would be a great project. So anybody else want to add, Joanna or Linda? DNR has a service center in many communities that has all kinds of experts on various environmental issues.
The other ones too are kids want to know a little bit more about government. So you have your city boards and your county boards and all of the different types of government agencies, so the kids can learn about, well, who makes decisions in my county? Who makes decisions in my city? So you can really begin to also involve all of the different departments of the city government or the county to be able to answer kids' questions. Well, who makes the rules? Why is this a law? The whole gamut of government agencies. And kids are really interested in how things are happening and why are we doing it? What elections right now are something that is just really interesting for kids. So I guess just keep a really open mind as to who can be a partner.
Excellent. Studying government itself and how it works. And then lots of community resources and nonprofits. There's just so much going on, as many of you probably know, at local libraries. There are educators there who will be willing to help you. Museums, nature centers, local community organizations like Kiwanis and Rotary really want to help. Their whole mission is fostering child development and helping young people in their communities. So they would really like to help you connect with other organizations or provide funding in many cases. Retirees, we'll talk about that a little bit more when we talk about making sure the task is matched to the partner, but also many sort of nonprofit clubs. There's photo clubs, people that really have certain expertise that would be glad to work with you. And recently maker spaces for much of the STEM work. Anything else?
Dolly, Beth Marie was asking a question about a list of who potential STEM partners might be, so that, you know, it would give them some kind of and I think we do have a list that you and Shaheen have put together of some of the potential partners that they can reach out to in STEM.
Right. We do, Beth Marie, and I can send you just a spreadsheet. However, what we're working on right now is sending all those people a survey and putting that information right into the WAN website on an interactive map. And so we're really trying to get that going and get that resource to you, because I think we want to make an easy way for you to find that information. So obviously businesses, Linda talked about some with the running example, but there are so many different kinds of businesses in every area that have people with expertise and resources. I wanted to point out with retail, we talked about sporting goods in the running example. Best Buy has a program. If you have a Best Buy in your community, they have a program to fund a teen tech center. And there is one in the Kenosha and Racine area that was developed in collaboration with Jockey Corporation. And that would be a great resource to look into. And I'm guessing there are a lot of other businesses that have those kinds of programs that we need to find out about, because there are a lot of businesses that want to foster the next generation workforce, particularly in STEM, and have resources and funding that they can help you with programs like this. Oh, I also listed on there plumbers, electricians, and carpenters, just some of those service roles and trades that I think really can teach kids some important skills, and that we are hearing about. We need more people to go into those trades. So to let kids know that those are really important roles that people play and great careers to go into.
Dolly, with those too, the scrap materials, like the electrical wire and stuff, that if you've got an electrician, they've got scrap wire and they don't have any use for it, but boy, you can use it for all kinds of science projects, as well as for the copper wire, hammered copper jewelry and things. So they're happy to partner with you to give their cast off. The same thing with carpenters. Some of the excess wood and things they have are wonderful resources for you to have for your programs. And, you know, it makes them feel good to also have a place that they don't just throw this stuff away, that there's someone that can use it. So those are potential partners, and not only talking about their career development, but also what materials and supplies they can help you with.
Great. So I think next, Joanna, there we go, is going to talk about 4-H.
Great. Well, thanks. And so we've been talking a lot about different types of partners and different ways you can partner. And so what we want to do is take a little bit deeper look at one partner specifically. So I work for, as I mentioned, the Division of Extension at UW-Madison. And 4-H, some of you may or may not know a lot about 4-H youth development. So, excuse me. So 4-H is the largest youth development organization in the United States. We have over 6 million active members. And 4-H in the United States is administered through the land grant system. So that all of the 4-H programs are tied to the university, local land grant university, which the role then becomes to take the resources and knowledge base of the university and bring that out into the communities. And so that is really the goal of 4-H and all of our youth development programs. And you might know 4-H as agriculture. We do a lot more than that. And actually our largest membership area, project area is communication and arts, with agriculture being second and STEM being third. And we have lots of volunteers. We have lots of folks all around the state. So we specialize in project-based learning. And we have a lot of different ways that we engage young people in projects. So it's a national organization with a lot of resources, and you can go to 4h.org, and that's our national website. You can find a lot of different resources there. As I mentioned, it's administered through the land grant system. So in every state has its own extension agency. In Wisconsin, there's a 4-H educator in every county. That is very common. So if you are thinking about partnering with some folks over in Minnesota, if you're close to the border, close to one of the borders with Illinois, and you want to do some across state line partnership, it's pretty typical to find a 4-H educator in each county that are there to help that particular community. Young people do not need to be a 4-H member or become a 4-H member to take advantage of our resources and programs. So we're open to anybody. We do, while young people are working with our programs, we encourage them to become a member. Members have specific benefits that are not open to all young people. So we have certain national trips, scholarships, and different things that are only available to members. But please keep in mind that becoming a member of 4-H or really many youth serving organizations, it doesn't cost any money to become a member. These organizations like 4-H exist to make sure that every young person and every family can get access to our resources. And so becoming a member is free, and there's not a lot of there are some expectations that come along with that, but each individual county can talk about that. You don't necessarily need to be in a 4-H club. A lot of people think about that. We also have different types of engagements, including after school clubs. We have summer camps, as you might be familiar with. We have in-school activities. We have after school, preschool. And so there's a lot of different ways that 4-H and our youth development organization interacts with the communities. And so you don't have to be a member, you don't have to be in a formal club, you don't have to specifically focus on one topic area. We have something that will meet a lot of different needs. And as I would say, for this particular group, being an after-school group or an out-of-school time group, that partnership with 4-H can look a lot of different ways. So in some counties, the 4-H educator is the after-school provider. They have a partnership with schools, and all of the after-school programming, from garnering funds to hiring staff to providing content, is the 4-H educator's role. In some counties, the 4-H educator has a different role. And so that might be just to come in and serve as that kind of specialty speaker. And so they might have some expertise in a certain area. And so they come in and they might do a few different sessions with your young people in conjunction with you as sort of the after school provider. And then, that's their role. They're there as a guest speaker or to bring in some activities a few times during your sessions, and that's the role. The role could also just be providing resources. And so we have a lot of different resources. Many of them are very inexpensive or free. And so if you're looking for curriculum or activities or thinking about materials and supplies and different types of kit-based programs, going to your local extension office might be a good fit in terms of just here's some curriculum that you might use for your particular age group. So our 4-H educators are youth development professionals, and so they do have some education in positive youth development, which is the area that we're all in. And so there's also resources about not only content, but context and creating safe environments, making sure that our young people have a voice in what they're doing, and some strategies to help incorporate a little bit more of that experiential learning process into whatever content that you might be bringing to the school. So I encourage you, if you have any questions, to please reach out to me, and I can connect you to your local person. We can also strategize about how programs might look in your community.
Joanne, may I give an actual personal example from using 4-H?
Sure.
Okay, this is from years ago, and I was working with Wisconsin Youth Company. We had a brand new supervisor at a site. She had a lot of experience with kindergarten. I think that was her education background, was in the early childhood. And so she started out as a new supervisor at a program and was given a club, which was basically the 3rd through 5th grade children in that after school program. And so it wasn't going too smoothly. And I know, as most of you that are in administration know, there are days when you sub at a program. So I came into this group of kids that were not very happy. And they said, "We're going on strike." And I said, that's interesting. If you're going on strike, you really have to know your grievances. And so for the rest of that day, they spent their time writing down what their grievances were. I credit this wonderful young supervisor because she did not have any experience working with the older kids. She came in the next day, listened to all their grievances, and then said, "Well, what do you want to do about it?" And then the next step for her, she reached out to 4-H because again, 4-H is really good at dealing with this age group, the 3rd through 5th graders. So she reached out to the extension and the 4-H leader, and they really established a 4-H club within that after school program. The kids developed their own officers. They took advantage of a lot of the 4-H projects. They did the small pets, which I think they had gerbils in their program. They did woodworking as part of their projects. They did a lot of the crafts because they had to raise money to pay for the bedding and the food for their gerbils. So it kind of grew, but by her being able to partner with 4-H, she gained the knowledge and background of the age group that she was not familiar with working with. And those kids just took total ownership of that program as a part of learning about 4-H and just really using a lot of the project materials and a lot of the resources. The kids actually went on to the county fair and exhibited there. So it was a real win for that particular program to really focus in on their projects. So it was a good way to use 4-H.
That's a really cool example, Linda. And I just think 4-H does have so much to offer. And I was thinking, even in your running club example, before you do anything else, you might check if 4-H has a project already developed that might have some resources to help guide the kids, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And it might help you design that driving question and gather the kinds of knowledge and skills that they need in order to do that. So I think the reason I really wanted Joanna to highlight 4-H as a potential partner is because I think for many projects, it's the first partner to check with to see what they have. And that might really help get you on your way with your project.
So I think this is, oh, I'm sorry, Joanna, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, and also, so the reason, part of the reason is we base our educators out in the state in the different counties is because we know our audiences are different across the state. And so that person can also be a resource sort of as Linda was saying, but also just thinking about your community. You know, part of our work in extension is to extend all throughout the community. And so through that, a lot of our educators build these sort of partnerships with others. And so they can also sort of be a hub for you to come in and say, you know, I'm really looking for a partner that might, you know, help me with X, Y, and Z. And I will tell you that probably more often than not, they might have some ideas for you, because, you know, their role is really to do community needs assessments, to know the players, and to help implement programming.
All right.
Great.
So I was going to say, I think this is a really good segue for us to take a couple minutes to just do some brainstorming. So we are going to, I'm going to open a whiteboard. It's going to be a new activity for us here. And so I'm going to ask you to just think about your own potential partnerships. So if you can see what's on this left side of the whiteboard, there's this little sticky note. And if you take a sticky note, you could pick your color and you could put a sticky note on the board, and you can add an idea of a potential partner in your community right to the board. And we can see all of the ideas that each person has in this space in having this conversation and thinking about what is available to us in our communities. We'll spend just a couple minutes and allow people to grab those sticky notes and put some potential partners on the board. And as you type, it should adjust your font, so you don't have to do that. And if there are any that are, you know, specific to your particular community, maybe you have, you know, a business or an organization or a resource that maybe is only in your community, you can certainly add that. The young professionals that I added was a group that was through our area Chamber of Commerce. And it was all of these young professionals in our area who got together and had presentations. But they also were really looking for volunteer opportunities, a way to give back and connect. And so we ended up having some young professionals from that organization. I went and presented at one of their meetings at the chamber, and they, some of the participants of that group came to our after school program and shared some of the things that they were really passionate about with the kids in our program. And so it was kind of a unique resource that we had access to. There's some really good ideas on here. Local farmers, financial institutions, first responders, CISA, banks, credit unions, local art like the theater or an arts center, high school clubs. UW Milwaukee, specialty schools, urban agriculture. Oh, that's awesome. Beth Marie, I think that might be yours. I'll have to connect you with Quinn. Quinn is really into urban horticulture right now. He would love, I'm sure, to be involved if that's something that you guys start in any of your programs.
Jen, how about TV and radio stations?
Yeah, that would be a great one. Maybe we'll take just another minute and then we'll resume our PowerPoint.
Local restaurants.
And for those of you on the call who are thinking of starting this, I think at least when you start working on this in your community, we would be glad to help you brainstorm partners. I would be glad to help you brainstorm STEM partners in your region, because we want to come up with a few models of things that work that we can then share with people around the state. So we really want to hear, what you want to do with this. Oh, Beth Marie said Vincent High School and River West Elementary Schools in Milwaukee have urban agriculture programs. It's a challenge to schedule off-site field trips during, how are people problem solving this in your community? That's a good question.
All right, I'm going to close the whiteboard and give people an opportunity to maybe respond to that. Is anybody navigating field trips during that after school window? I know sometimes we have a short amount of time and that can be a little bit difficult.
I know in Madison, they do have one day a week, at least in the elementary and middle schools, that are shorter days where the after school program is longer. It starts at 1, something like in some schools.
Teacher in-service days are a good time to also schedule those longer term projects and activities. And so maybe taking real advantage of those days that are longer, kind of dovetail it then with your shorter activities, but take advantage of the in-service days. And then also if you do have programs during like winter and spring break time, you can really take good advantage of some of your project-based learning during those particular longer times.
And particularly at the elementary level, if you develop a good partnership with K through 12 teachers, you might even be able to do something collaboratively and span part of the school day.
Awesome, good suggestions. Some food for thought.
Yes, thank you so much. So hopefully that helped brainstorm. So
Nancy said they do. Oh, sorry. Nancy said that they do field trips on the in-service days. Yeah, so that was a good suggestion.
Excellent. Thank you. Awesome. So yeah, just a few other tips, and then we'll be open to questions or ideas. So really don't be afraid to ask and have kids ask. There's people out there waiting to be asked and would like to be more involved with kids and with youth in their community. Be clear about what you need. Make sure the role is a good fit for the partner. And that might just emerge in the discussion with them. You might not know right away, but some thinking about it ahead of time might help. So for example, Linda brought up retirees, and I've had a lot of experience involving retirees with after school programs. And sometimes it's a good fit and sometimes it isn't. In many cases, retirees do not deal well with chaos. They just having them work with a whole program of 30 kids or 20 kids might not be a good fit, but they might really excel at being a mentor for one kid who's really interested, or a very small group that wants to work on a specific project. So think about the experience of the person that you're approaching, both in terms of their technical expertise, but their experience working with kids and their comfort working with kids, to figure out that best role. Just be clear, keep communication lines open. If they are calling you or emailing you, answer them promptly to keep them interested, and thank them again and again. Have kids thank them, and involve parents and families in thanking them, especially if it's a business. You might want to really encourage the parents to then patronize that business and thank them for their involvement. So just a few tips. And yeah, just these are some larger partnerships that may be developed with a very specific project, but that grew into something that's really systemic and that really helps the program. In Racine and Kenosha, the Jockey Corporation has employees in mentoring and tutoring youth on a regular basis. That's where I learned about this Best Buy Teen Tech Center. So that's one business that's really integrally involved in the after-school program in their community. And then the next example, it started with Linda coming to me many years ago and saying, could we start after-school science clubs in the Madison School District and programs that serve Madison kids? And we started a program called Adult Role Models in Science, and got UW students involved, leading science clubs in collaboration with local programs, and started doing more PD for those staff, and really it got a lot of STEM going in programs across Madison. And that started with a project that Linda came up with. So there are things that can grow into broader, more meaningful partnerships. So that's all we have. And we really want to know from you what other challenges you think there are. This is the culminating session of the project-based learning series. So we could really touch on any of the things that we've gone over in the last few weeks, and any ideas that you have that you want to share. And it really helps to have you sort of pose those challenges, and then we can help you address them.
While people are taking a minute to reflect on the question that Dolly just put out there, I'm going to launch the poll, which is a short 5-question poll. We're asking that you take just a minute to complete that. And while you're thinking about the question and completing the poll, please unmute or use the chat to share any questions, comments, thoughts, challenges that you're navigating, so that we can continue our conversation.
And things that you might request us to do specifically to help you.
Yeah, resources that would be helpful.